Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How y'all doing? Welcome to another episode of In the Blender. Happy Victory Tuesday for those people living in South Florida. Finally, the Panthers got their goal, no pun intended, and got the Stanley Cup championship. This will make 5 years in a row that teams from Florida are playing in the championship state with no ice. It's amazing, man. Las Vegas too was in the championship too, so it's crazy, but it is what it is. Happy congratulations to the Florida Panthers. And when we come back, I got a wonderful guest. We're gonna deep dive into this Dolphins history. So if you like good old fashioned Miami Dolphins and of course new school, this is gonna be a treat for you, man. So
shake, 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 yeah, shake, 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 shake. Shake money in the place. Miami plays, Miami days, and the blender was shaking his friends. We're gonna talk about the Fins again. Miami plays, Miami days, and the blender was shaking his friends. We're gonna talk about the Fins again. Is you a fan or a troll? Are you trying to wish us good? Trying to take control, bringing problems to the hood. What takes your soul? Miami Dolphins bring the wood. Super Bowl is the goal. Tyreek Hill. I'm trying to kick it with Shake. You gotta be a real fan. No pretenders and fakes. We're gonna open up the line. Come correct with your taste. If you step into us blind, we're gonna show you the way. Miami plays, Miami days, and the blender was shaking his friends. We're gonna talk about the Fins again. Miami plays, Miami days, and the blender was shaking his friends. We're gonna talk about the Fins again. Never want the season to end. Let's mix it up a little with gin. And I remember when I knew that the Dolphins would win. Yeah, rockin' with Shake, rockin' with Shake. Let's go. I never want the season to end. Never mix it up a little with gin. That's right. Pass it off to one of my friends. Yeah, rockin' with Shake, rockin' with Shake. Larry K, what up? Phin-Addicts. TFTG, the tailgate. Miami Dolphins, baby. What up, Lou? Shake money. Crypto. Check it. Me? God bless y'all. Miami Dolphins #1. And we out. Miami Dolphins football, the greatest football team. We push the ball from goal to goal like no one's ever seen. Respect us.
yeah, I'm having me a nice little victory cigar, and for the Panthers. This next guest, I seen in the West Coast Dolphins fan club with Papa Paul and Dolphins Winters. I met him at the tailgates last year, on the east side, which is a super wonderful experience. If you ever do tailgate, we're going to talk about that as well. But before we do, man, I want to introduce you to the one, the only John O'Hare. What's going on? How you spell your last name? John
O'Hanlon.
Oh, John O'Hanlon. What's going on, John O'Hanlon? How you doing, man?
What's up, brother? How are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you, man. And thank you for coming on, and I appreciate your you know what I'm saying, your support, man. It means a lot.
Oh, shoot. Thanks for having me. I love your show. The different things you do. You're always welcome on WCFL. You're there quite a bit. It's the fan base that we have is incredible. The people we have are just super nice. It's hard to say a bad thing about our fan base. Obviously, little things here and there, but hey, most of the people I've met over the last 4 years, absolutely phenomenal.
Let me pour myself a little Mai Tai right here.
You got it pre-mixed?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't like too many pre-mix. The one pre-mix that I actually enjoy, they freaking discontinue. Let's go figure, right?
Yeah.
Oh, man. But at any rate, when I was looking at the thumbnail, is a me of you, right? And this is gonna segue right into the how wonderful this community is, because on your neck you had a picture of the mayor. I was first aware of the mayor because of Dolph Freaky, and then slowly after her, I started seeing it on other, because we have a lot of mutual friends on Facebook, and I see you have a lot of pictures of different people wearing that chain. Tell me, who is the mayor, and what where did that chain stem from?
Well,
If you don't mind
the
me
mayor,
going
the
into
mayor,
that.
the mayor is Gary Piatek. He lived in South Jersey. I met Gary 3-4 years ago down in Florida when I started going to games at East 12. Walked around with a bottle, little shot glasses. We pour people shots. If he knew I was flying down on Friday, he'd text me and say, "Hey, this is where I'm going to be." If Holly picked me up or Maria or whomever, we'd go meet him for lunch. Gary was just a wonderful, wonderful person, heart of gold. I've never met anybody that had a bad word to say about him. He was retired, so he would go down there like on Tuesday. He would go to the Keys, then he would come back up to, Miami Gardens area. Just a wonderful person. And year and a half ago at tailgate, he was telling me that he wasn't feeling well. He was having some stomach problems, and he was going to the doctor. They were trying to figure out what was going on. And then towards the end of that year, he had found out that he had cancer and that it was terminal. So when he passed, I kind of wanted to do a tribute to the mayor because everybody loved him. So I got a hold of Chris and told him what I wanted for the chain and, send him the payment for it. And then that chain actually went to every game this past year, home game, away game. Bob Sampson was nice enough to take it to all the away games. And then he would give it back to me at the home games. I would give it back to him at the end of the night. He would take it the next week to an away game. It's in my cabinet over here. I wanted it so that people could remember Gary and still be able to take pictures with him. Gary was always taking pictures, giving out shots, just always smiling. And I didn't want to lose that at tailgate. So that's why I had that chain made so that everybody could enjoy taking a picture. And some people cried and some people smiled, and people I didn't know would come over to me and say, "Hey, can I take a picture with that?" I'm like, "Absolutely." And this way, Gary's always going to be there.
Yeah, and I guess that's gonna be on my bucket list next year too. Then, because like I said, I always wanted to know the story about that, and being that the reason I thought about it was because I saw it on the picture. So I figured, and it was multiple pictures of you. So I figured you would have the best story about that.
Yeah, I actually reached out to Chris to have that made, just because Gary was such a wonderful person. I mean, he was always smiling, always happy. He was happy to be in Florida. He was happy hanging out at tailgates and restaurants and taking pictures with people, and just always a great guy to be around. And he would, like I said, he would go to the Keys before the game. Sometimes if we had back-to-back games, he would just stay down there because, like I said, he was retired. He'd go back to the Keys and he'd put up all his pictures of different restaurants and bars and bands and stuff. And, when Mike Gesicki did his signing in South Jersey a couple years ago, I got there early. I was like 12th in line, and I told everybody that was coming in behind me, I said, "Listen, I got two people that are coming to meet me. They're going to get in line with me." Gary was one, Dan Steele was the other. Or no, Tom O'Gara. No, it was Dan Steele. Dan Steele. Tom O'Gara showed up a little later, but Gary and Danny and myself, we hung out. We got some autographs. We took some pictures with Gesicki, his mom, his wife. Went to the bar, had a drink. It was just phenomenal person. It's sad that we lost him.
Yeah, thank God we're doing that cancer challenge. The Dolphins. That's one thing that I'm proud of, that the Dolphins are actually doing every offseason and without fail.
Oh, absolutely. It starts in August and runs through final stuff has to be in by March, and in February they do the Dolphins Cancer Challenge down there at the Hard Rock. If you ever get a chance, go do the 5K walk, or do the 13 or the 54 or the 99-mile bike ride. There's another one in between there. What's the other one? 13, 54. I know it's Marino, Zach Thomas, Jason Taylor, and I'm forgetting one. But there's like 4 different bike rides you can do. And it's all just raising money for cancer. This year they raised over $10 million.
Mm-hmm. That's what's up, man. Yeah, and we lost one of our greats to cancer, and that was the late Jim Mandich.
I'm sure we've probably lost more than that to it. We just don't always find out. We find out they passed, and they say we're surrounded by family, and we just don't know that it was cancer. But
yeah, But before we continue, Phil, what's going on, Phil? Costa Nostra, Dolphinier, Cat for Life, Raphael Courtright. Don't worry, Michael K. We didn't miss you. And he's a Bills fan, so.
Oh yeah, no.
But hey, listen, listen. We troll each other all the time, man. And so, have you ever been to any Bills games in Buffalo?
Oh yeah. I've been to every stadium east of the Mississippi, except for Indy's new stadium, which I'm going to this year.
Me too.
But I've been to every stadium east of the Mississippi. I've been to. I made it out to LA last year. That was first time I got to go out to LA. Nice stadium. Setup's a little weird on certain things, but they spent all that money and built it. So plan on going to more on the other side of the Mississippi as I can. Hopefully one day I can say I've made it to all 32 cities.
How was the if you had to rank stadiums, which one would you say was the best, and which one would you say was not so impressive? I want to say crappy, but not so impressive.
No, you could say crappy. New England Stadium for a long time was crap. When Kraft took over and bought it, they did do some renovations, but back in the 80s and 90s, that stadium was garbage. Even the fans that are, my age, they'll tell you that stadium was just wretched. And I've been to New England probably 4 or 5 times because I grew up in Connecticut. So I used to be able to just do a 2.5-hour drive and be at the stadium. As far as other stadiums, Washington is horrendous. That stadium is just beat to hell. They need to put a lot of money in it or build a new one. MetLife, believe it or not, it's a nice stadium, but the way they set it up, the wind's always blowing through there. Mm-hmm. And in early September, October, it's not bad, but as you get in the later months, it just makes that place so cold. It's not just cold outside. The wind is whipping in from behind you as you're watching the game.
Wow.
That's just bad when you're sitting there and you got to make sure you cover your neck and, with a scarf and stuff, because the wind's literally coming right from behind you, right through the stadium.
Damn. So I am going to MetLife this January. So you suggest I should bundle up?
Yeah. Make sure you get your neck covered, because when you're sitting there facing the game, the wind's coming in from behind you. And January's, is it January?
Yeah, it's in January this year. It's the last game of the season.
Okay, yeah, Cleveland and the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's. I mean, listen, we could get lucky and have one of those 50-degree January days, which happens. Mm-hmm. We could get real unlucky, and it could be 0.
Wow.
January in Jersey it's usually cold. You're talking 20s and 30s most of the time, and then you get those cold spells where it's 0, and then you'll have a couple of days where all of a sudden it just hits 45, 50, and you're like, damn, this is nice. But it doesn't last.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a hit of the lot. It's kind of like a spin of the wheel.
Yeah.
Of the draw,
you can plan on it being cold, and if it's not, that's great. But make sure you bundle up and you bring lots of warm clothes and sit real close to whoever you're sitting with.
Don't worry, hopefully I'll be sitting next to Larry K. I'm not going to try to bundle up with him. So, so being that you are from Jersey, right? Correct?
Yep.
and you come to all the home games, what are some of the travel advice would you give people that want to come to Miami, or they're
Two things. One,
any hacks that you learned over the years?
well, fly on Spirit. The seats suck. Some of them are hard as a rock, but for me, it's a 2-hour and 20-minute flight. I'll deal with it. And fly into Fort Lauderdale or West Palm. Do not fly into Miami. That airport sucks. It's just too crowded. It takes forever to get anything done. Luckily I'm able to fly into Fort Lauderdale, and Miss Holly picks me up most of the time. If I can't fly in there, I fly into West Palm, and either Maria or daughter Chrissy, who obviously are at all our tailgates, they pick me up. So I'm lucky that way. I got good friends that pick me up. I stay with them. What's today? Tuesday. Saturday I finished booking all my flights for all the home games. I got them all done. I had already had Indy done. That one's booked. So I got 9 flights in my phone right now. Spirit sucks, but for the price, you can't beat it. Some of my flights down to Fort Lauderdale cost me $60 round trip from Friday to Monday.
Wow.
Yeah. So you know, and that's how I can afford to go to all the home games, because I already, I got to pay for my season ticket, and I got to pay for all the flights there and back. Now, depending on when the game is, it could be more expensive. The game around Thanksgiving was like 120 round trip. The San Fran game was 230, 250. No, 350, because it's the weekend before Christmas. But when I first started looking, it was like 630, and I ended up booking it for West Palm because it was only 350. So I'm like, all right, I'll fly to West Palm that weekend.
And how do you what's when you going home after a loss, how do you cope with that? Now you got a long kind of flight home, and you didn't get the outcome that you wanted, or doesn't, you kind of let it water off your back like a duck?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I still dress in my gear. So when I'm in Fort Lauderdale, I get people that recognize me. They're like, "Oh, you're going home? How'd the Dolphins do?" They don't even follow football. And then when I land in Atlantic City, most of the people in Atlantic City are Eagles fans. Even though it's Jersey, they're much closer to Philly, so they're all Eagles fans. So, a couple of them, really nice people, they'll see me on Friday and say, "Hey, you going down for the game?" And, a couple of them will talk crap and be like, "Oh, it's not the birds." And I always have one response when people say birds. I go, "Yeah, swallows," because isn't swallows a bird?
Mm-hmm.
So when I say swallows, their face just goes, "What?" And that usually quiets them down. They don't break my balls too much. So, but no, I mean, listen, it sucks when you got to fly home after a loss, but it happens. I've been to MetLife plenty of times and watched them lose. I've watched them lose in Buffalo, New England, all over the place. I've been very lucky. A lot of the games that I get to go to, we have won. Up until this year, the last year I was in Philly was when Shula broke the record.
Mm-hmm.
And the fans that day were actually pretty cool. At the end of the game, they're like, "Hey, congrats, your coach is awesome. He broke the record," and they were pretty decent. This past year, we ran into a few of them that were idiots, not too much, but you get the ones that just, they got to be like that. And I can't say it doesn't happen at the Hard Rock. I don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do it to other people.
Yeah.
You're there. You're a fan of your team. You're there for the game. You're there for the experience. I'm not going to call you names or, just be belligerent for no reason.
Yeah. No doubt. Yeah. And at the end of the day, yeah, I'm not there to heckle either. You know what I'm saying? I just let bygones be bygones. Say, what's up? It is what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you asked about stadium experience. LA was actually pretty damn cool. Their tailgate was a lot like ours at the Hard Rock. It's probably the closest I've seen. Philly tailgating sucks. Baltimore tailgating sucks. MetLife sucks. You know, they don't tailgate like they do down at the Hard Rock. It's amazing. You know, they have these little groups, you know, families just hang out together. Nobody's walking around. You know, like ours has aisles and you can just walk up and down the aisles and walk from one side of the stadium around and see people. And
Yeah.
and the closest I've seen to that was LA when we went to the Chargers game. But every other stadium, no. Their tailgating sucks. You
Yeah,
ask
no
their
doubt.
fans, they think it's good. And I tell them, no, you want to see real good tailgating? Come down to the Hard Rock. You'll see tailgating.
And speaking of which, you seem like you've been to a lot of games in general. Have you ever been to the Orange Bowl when Dolphins were playing in the Orange Bowl?
No, actually, it's funny because I had been to, I believe, 19 or 20 different stadiums, and I had never been to Miami. I had seen him play in Tampa. I had seen him play in Jacksonville. And in 2019, a good friend of mine, Jake, who used to live here in Jersey and moved to Georgia, called me and said, hey, you want to go to the Chargers game? I can get his tickets. And it was going to be, I believe, his second start.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first time I got down to Miami to see him play. Up until that point, when I was young, I just never thought about it. And then I had kids and I couldn't afford it. You know, I would get to go to one game here or one game there a year and have to pick and choose which stadium I was going to go to. But then my kids got older and grew up and they're all adults. And I'm like, now I can afford it. I'm going because I'm not spending my money on there.
Yeah.
So any of you youngsters out there, and I say youngsters, you know, you're 20, 30 years old and you see some guy in his 50s or 60s saying, oh, he's having a midlife crisis. No, he's not. It's not a midlife crisis. He ain't spending his money on his kids anymore. Now he can spend it on himself.
Yeah.
That's why he goes and gets that expensive sports car, that boat, or, you know, somebody like me, I'm not into that stuff. So I just go to the games.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and by the way, Michael K, I know you're heckling me, and what's to say? I consider you second cleanup, 8 batter, just barely good enough to make the roster, and better. Hey, listen, I'm glad you believe. I'm glad you have that level of belief in me. Thank you. I'm proud. I'm gonna sleep. I'm gonna sleep easy at night knowing that you believe in me. Thank you.
Hey,
By the way,
if he
Michael
thinks-
K, like I said, if listen, at the end of the day, if you don't have thick skin, you shouldn't be doing this shit. So. I
if he
appreciate
thinks you're good enough to be in the starting 9, then that's good.
Yeah.
He didn't call you the bat boy or something. He said just second cleanup. Well, you're still in the starting 9.
Oh yeah. I'll take it. I'll take it. All right. Now that now one of the things that in all the pictures I've seen, 2 things I want to touch on. The one that dope tattoo that you have on your arm.
Oh, on my left arm, yeah.
How did that come about?
I was 21 or 22, and I was a manager at a restaurant, and I was leaving to take a different job. And a good buddy of mine who was a chef said, "Come on, let's go out tonight and just have a couple drinks and do something crazy." So we went out, and he said, "What do you want to do crazy?" I said, "Well, I don't have any tattoos. I've always wanted to get a tattoo." He said, "Let's go." So we went to this local tattoo shop, and he breaks down a credit card and goes, "I just got this in the mail. I haven't used it, so it's on me." So I got the original part done, just the Dolphin symbol.
Yeah.
Then I went back a year later to the day and had Miami Dolphins put on the top and bottom of it. My oldest son, who will be 35 in a couple weeks, is actually a tattoo artist. So he's been building on the rest of it over the last, I don't know, 5-8 years. He just keeps adding to it. I give him the idea, like I wanted the stadium in there. I wanted the Super Bowl trophies. I wanted it to bleed aqua and orange. And then I just let him do his thing.
Yeah.
There's still more to go. I still got to add more to it. Because I only have the symbol from the 80s into the 90s on there, and I want to get the rest of them put on. I got Zach Thomas to sign my arm when we were in Canton when he got inducted in the Hall of Fame. And my son was with me, so he put some paper over it and traced it, so he still has that. I'm actually going to have Zach's signature tattooed on my arm right where he signed it.
Okay, that's hell yeah.
Yeah. I want to get all the symbols put on there. my forearm on my left arm, I keep saying I'm saving. We win another Super Bowl. I'm just putting the Lombardi on my entire forearm.
Yeah, I think this year. You think this year is a good chance, or how strong are you feeling about it?
See, you've listened to our show. I'm the wait and see guy. I want to wait and
Yeah.
see who the 53-man roster is. I think the early part of the schedule is definitely winnable. I think the later part of the schedule is more difficult. And listen, all those fans out there that want to cry about Tua and McDaniels not winning in December and January, there wasn't a lot of winning going on with Shula and Marino in December and January either. Go back and look at it. The Dolphins have always struggled in cold weather, whether it was the 1980s, the 90s, the 2000s. It's just something that, you're down in that Miami heat and you're leaving 80, 85 degree weather, and then you're going somewhere where it's 20 or 30 degrees and you're used to the nice warm weather. The Dolphins have always scheduled or had a hard time with late games in the year in cold weather.
Going back to Dan Marino.
Yeah. I mean, if I remember right, Marino actually has a losing record in cold weather.
So, and one thing I said, look, at the end of the day, Tua didn't come into a winning organization that was winning year in and year out. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
This is the first time that we put together 4 winning seasons. So it's heading in a positive direction. You know what I'm saying? People
absolutely.
think Rome was built in a day,
No. I mean, listen, I like McDaniel. I think he's a good coach. I think he could be a great coach if he would recognize the things that he does wrong and fix them. Last year's press conference, he said, I understand I made some mistakes. I fixed them. And then for the most part, he did. But there were still times they're calling timeout because they can't get the play off in time. It takes too long to call the play in, which means when they get to the line, Tua can't audible out of it and call something different because there's just not enough time. So, you got to shorten that stuff up and give your team a chance to be able to change the play when they get up and to see what the defense is doing. So, I'm happy with the progress they've made in the last 4 years and where we've been and what's going on now. I won't make a prediction, but looking at the schedule, I can definitely see another winning year. Could be playoffs, maybe not. I mean, that late part of the schedule is going to be tough. We've said it on our Wednesday show. I've said it repeatedly. If you look at last year, they said we had the second hardest strength of schedule going into the year.
Mm-hmm.
We finished 11-6. It's not our fault that teams like the Chargers and the Giants didn't turn out to be playoff teams again like they were the year before. And then if you look at this year, we have like the 17th hardest schedule, but they're factoring in the Jets not having Aaron Rodgers last year, which he's back, which instantly makes them better. Can we still beat them? Absolutely. But the strength of schedule is based on your opponents from last year and what they did. Well, the Jets stunk the place up for most of the year, and they didn't have their starting quarterback. Now they do, which makes them a tougher team than what people are saying. So when you look at certain stats, you got to look at them and not just take them for what they're saying, but look at how they come up with these stats.
Yeah. I agree. You can't take everything for face value, pretty much.
No. I mean, just like you get some of these knuckleheads that, the 72 undefeated team, they had the easiest schedule. Well, they played everybody that was on their schedule.
And they had to go away, too, on the playoffs.
Well, the last game, the AFC Championship was in Pittsburgh, even though they were undefeated, because back then they used to do the round robin where it went to different places. And that year it happened to be their division's turn to host it. So Pittsburgh made it. They got to host the AFC Championship game, even though Miami was undefeated. Could you imagine if they did that now? People would be going nuts.
Oh, yeah. Before we continue, man, give a shout out to Costa Nostra, man. He's always in the building. Appreciate you. Much love to you, man. My man, commentary from the Fins Tailgate, Kenner Ranking. I got Raphael Courtwright, and of course, the Texas legend, EM Dolphin fan. By the way, that's a nice man cave you got. How long did it take you to build that? Building it?
Actually, this one We lost our house in 2012 to Sandy. I didn't lose any of my Dolphin stuff, but we lost the house, so I had to take everything out. We rebuilt and moved in January of 2016. And before I put everything up, my wife had everything already painted. So I have my cabinets full of stuff here. I have flags on the ceiling. I got all kinds of memorabilia on all the walls. Even the door going out. I got some Tua and Waddle things up here. I got 4 Sports Illustrated signed by Dan up here. I have all kinds of crazy different things like limited edition, here. Here's one of Sun Life Stadium, limited edition number 2. Different team signed photos, all kinds of crazy stuff. I collect anything I can find. My wife always says to me, "You have too much stuff." I'm like, "Nah, I really don't, because there's stuff out there I don't have."
So let me ask you this: if you could only take one thing with you, what would that one thing be?
Probably the 72 Dolphins undefeated season. The statue's right there.
Uh-huh.
That's one of my favorite pieces. Then underneath that, I got the 3 beer steins, the Dolphins, Zach Thomas and Dan Marino. Those are all beer steins. But that 72 piece is just a phenomenal piece. And I got a bunch of different stuff. I got different collectibles. Some of the stuff ain't worth a penny, and other stuff is worth a ton of money, but I don't get it for that. I get it just to have it.
Yeah, a lot of things that there's certain things that people were like, damn, it's only, you could buy that at a dollar store. I don't care about there's meaning behind some things that I have, and like you can't put a price on. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's just certain things that are just, to me, irreplaceable.
Like I have a terrible towel that my friend who passed away, I have from him. It's his terrible towel. I know it's Pittsburgh, but it was his terrible towel. That's irreplaceable, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying?
Right. No, absolutely. Listen, my best friend here in Jersey is a 49ers fan. He's coming down to the game with me in December. My other buddy here is a Colts fan. I'm going to the game with him there. My 2 best friends that I grew up with in Connecticut, as a kid, I'm still best friends with them. One's a Steelers fan, one's a New England fan.
All right.
So,
and all right, here we go. Before we get to the $1 million question and to do like we do a review on last year's team. That picture you took with Ross, how did that come about? I seen you have a picture with Stephen Ross.
That was at the DCC, and I was up in the heavy hitter lounge, and he was walking through the lounge. So I said hello, shook his hand, said, "Mind if I take a picture?" He said, "No, absolutely, go ahead." So we took a picture. I thanked him, and off he went. He didn't spend a lot of time talking to anybody, but he did stop and take pictures. And it was just, for me, it was cool because, hey, that's the owner of the team. He's hanging out with all the people.
Yeah, that's what's up. I mean, I thought I've seen a lot of people have pictures with Stephen Ross, and I think that's amazing that he would, not too many owners would care to one way or another if you want, what I'm saying, if you're happy with him or not. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
The fact that he took his picture with you, I think means a lot, says a lot about him.
Yeah, and that's a story, I got to tell my kids, and, I'll be able to tell my grandkids as they get older. And, it's just, that's the whole experience of going down to the Hard Rock, is just the people.
Yeah. And, I have a cool, interesting story about Wayne Huizenga. I had a guest on. This is my second season. I'm drawing a blank on his name, but I met him through the panels, and he was definitely one of the guys I wanted to have on as a guest. And why am I drawing a name? At the end of the day, his brother was a police officer, okay? And he passed in the line of duty, whatever. And Wayne Huizenga knew he was a Dolphin fan. Not only did they give him the okay to put the Dolphin emblem on his casket, but they brought the family over to do a tribute to his brother. And I thought, man, that's something that you can't put into words.
No, that's unbelievable that the team would even think about doing something like that.
So, all right, now let's ask the $1 million question. Being that you're from Connecticut, from the Northeast, what made you a Dolphin fan?
The third Super Bowl that Miami was in the 70s, January of 74. My dad was a Steelers fan. My parents, both their families were from Pittsburgh, but we were in Connecticut because my dad was in the service and got stationed there and stayed there when he retired. And my dad was much older than I am because I'm number 8 of 10 kids. So I got 5 older sisters, 2 older brothers, 2 younger brothers. But the Super Bowl comes on, and I was just a little kid, and I was sitting there, watching the game, and my mother pokes her head around the corner and says, "Hey, you got to come in. I got to cut your hair." And I'm like, "Okay." And I got up and went and sat down, and my dad's watching the game, and he yelled about something, and I jumped to try to see the TV, and my mother sliced my ear right at the top, literally off my head. So she's screaming. My dad gets up, throws a towel with some ice on it. We jump in the car. We go to the emergency room, and they had a little 13-inch black and white TV up in the corner. And I got to watch the end of the Super Bowl in the emergency room, waiting to get my ear stitched back on my head. And there was no color on it, but I had seen the colors earlier in the day. And I'm just like, I was a Dolphins fan. My dad was a Steelers fan. He never forced his team on any of his kids, just like I never did to mine.
Mhm.
So I was a Dolphins fan. He bought me my first baseball cap was in 1976, and I still have it.
Wow.
It's got the orange mesh back with the snapback. I still have that with my 180 hats that I have or whatever it is. But I still have that original hat. I never got rid of it. I never lost it. I kept it as a kid. I went into service. I left it at my mother's house. I came home, met my wife, moved to New Jersey. I still have it. So when I met my wife, I told her, I said, Sundays is for football. If you can't deal with that, we can't get married. And she was like, "Nah, I get it." She's not into sports, but she was like, "Okay." And every year, my birthday or anniversary, that's what I get is different Dolphin stuff because she knows it's easy to shop for. She doesn't have to put much thought into it.
Yeah,
Just give me
exactly.
something with Dolphins on it. I still have clothes from the 80s and 90s. My oldest son now wears them because he's skinny and I'm not. So, he'll wear that stuff and be like, "Dad, this stuff's cool. It's got the old symbols on it." I'm like, "Yep, that's why I didn't throw it out."
Oh yeah. And I'm taking. Which one is your favorite logo out of all the logos?
I have the 80s logo tattooed on my arm, but the 90s one is actually my favorite one.
The little cartoon one?
Yeah, with the full color dolphin and that little scowl on his face. When Ross bought the team and took the helmet off the logo, pretty much upset me. I still don't like the new logo. I'll wear it. But we were the only NFL team to have a helmet on our mascot. So it was kind of distinguishing, saying, "Hey, we're the only ones." The Redskins had the face inside the helmet, but they didn't have a helmet on their mascot.
Okay.
And he took it off of there. And the 90s one is my favorite. And then the 80s, then the 60s and 70s before that. And I would put the new logo as last because I still haven't come around to really saying I like it. I buy stuff with it on it. I have stuff with it on it, but it's the least of my favorite.
Yeah. I mean, I don't blame you. At the end of the day, from what McCullough, the co-host of Finn's Tailgate, says, technically that dolphin isn't a dolphin can't really do that in real life. How he's swimming, how he's posed.
Well, that pose is more of jumping out of the water and back into the water, so it will be up above the water, so it can bend its tail that way after it jumps up.
Okay,
but it's not swimming like that. Where the old logo, it's more of like it came out of the water and they took a picture of it, and that's more of what you're going to see than the one we have now. And then to have the helmet on with the M on it, right? Everybody in the world knew what that was. That's the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, Miami.
Yeah, you take that new logo and just show it to somebody and say, "What is this?" They're going to go, "A dolphin." if they're not into football, they don't even know it's the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, somebody said it looks like the Aquafresh.
Yeah, Aquafresh toothpaste coming out of the tube.
Yeah,
yeah. I don't see a lot of thought that was put into it. So,
well, just like our freaking our our schedule release.
Hey, I mean, now I will say this: fan experience wise, the Hard Rock does not live up to a lot of stadiums. They're lacking in fan experience as far as when you go to other stadiums and you see the things they do, and the giveaways and the constant throwing T-shirts and stuff into the stands. And I know there was a problem a couple of years ago, and thank God for Allie. She put a post out there or a tweet or something, and Ross actually heard about it. And the very next home game, they were back out there shooting T-shirts up into the stands.
Mm-hmm.
But it shouldn't take the fan base to do that.
Yeah,
You go to other stadiums and they do it constantly.
And the one thing we were talking about, the theme that we were talking about, is not the monetary value of the things that they give us. It's the momentum. When you see something like the beads, it could be a dollar store beads, but you gotta remember, I was at the Bills game when we won 10 points or something like that. There's memories attached to those little things.
Yeah, I got these little. They gave out flags last year, and they didn't tell you there was 3 colors, but luckily I got enough where I could trade with people, and I got one of each color. But it's that's cool because you can say, hey, I get that while I was at the stadium. And that's the thing is, like, every time I've gone to MetLife or Buffalo, they're constantly giving out stuff as you're entering the stadium. We do it a couple times a year.
Like, take this cup, for instance. It's not really an expensive cup, but I went to this game with my buddy Crypto, and it's going to be a momentum that I have for a long time.
Right. Yep.
Obviously when I get the new cup next year, I'm going to retire this bad boy and just have it as a collector's item. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got a few of those in the cabinet from the last few years. So I bring them home, I throw them in, wash them out, throw them in the cabinet, and keep them.
So let me ask you, what was your Dolphins grade last year for the team?
I kind of grade the team pretty much by like halves, because in the beginning of the season, the offense was playing great. They were putting up points. The defense was still coming together and gelling. And then in the second half, the defense was playing much better and not giving up a lot of points, but the offense wasn't scoring any points. So it was like, if you look at the first half of the year, I'd give the offense an A and the defense maybe a C. And then later in the year, I'd give the defense an A and the offense a D, because in the last 5 games, I think we scored 42 points. And that's just not going to get you anywhere when you make the playoffs. You got to be scoring. The defense has to play well, but you still got to put point. That Kansas City game, as cold as it was, we kept holding them to field goals. If the offense could have moved the ball and put some points on the board, it might have been a different game.
Yeah, no doubt. And at the end of the day, it's when I think the team was predicated on the offense. So you would think that down the stretch. And the one thing on Hard Knocks, I want to get to that in a minute. I want your thoughts on the Hard Knock. Waddle said in the last game, goes, man, with all these injuries on defense, we're the ones that are struggling. That's no excuse. I think that made me kind of gain a little more respect for Waddle, and I'm glad he's got the contract. What did you think of Hard Knocks?
I wasn't for it when I found out about it. I didn't want him to do it. I didn't want the distraction because the team was doing so well. And then, of course, December we went 2-3, and then, lost in the playoffs, and people are like, oh, Hard Knocks was a distraction. Whether it was or not, I don't know. I'm not in the locker room, and obviously they do a lot of filming to edit it to get to that show that they put on every week. And because if you think that they just went in there and filmed AVG's family one week and somebody. No, they're filming everybody, and then they break it down and they take bits and pieces and edit and take what they want out of it. But there's thousands of hours that are filmed. So, I didn't want it to be a distraction to the guys, and some of our fan base used that as an excuse of, why we didn't do so good in December and January in the playoffs was because of Hard Knocks. If it was, it was. I mean, if it wasn't, it wasn't. I'm not. I kind of like the mysteriousness of the building.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to know every conversation in there.
Yeah.
That's what makes being a fan, because you and I can sit down and talk about stuff and say, well, are they going to sign two, or glad Waddle got his extension, or how come they couldn't pay Christian Wilkins, or we're not privy to all those conversations. We don't get to see and hear what goes on in that building all the time. And I like it that way, because I think it would kind of ruin it if you knew everything that went on and what was said and how it was things come about. I think it would kind of ruin the fan experience for you.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And at the end of the day, like you said, it's like removing the fourth wall. Kind of like, sort of like, as they say in the TV business. You know what I mean? Or like watching the sausage being made. You really don't need to. You're just concerned about what's going on Sundays.
Yep.
That's true. And the one thing I like about you, and I think we're kind of aligned at the same time, as far as contracts and who we sign, that's out of our control.
Yep.
We could want who we want, but at the end of the day, and I mentioned this to you, and we both agreed that at the end of the day, it's easy to say who we want, who we don't want, because at the end of the day, if we're wrong, nothing happens to us.
Doesn't cost us a penny.
Chris Greer, on the other hand, that's whose ass is on the line if he makes the mistakes.
Right. Chris, Mike McDaniel. I forget the other guy that works real close with Chris Greer, the one that does a lot of the contract.
Brandon Shore, yeah.
Yeah. He does a lot of the wording in the contract. They screw up. They're the ones that lose their job. They screw up. Ross is the one that could lose millions. We don't lose a penny.
Yeah.
We don't lose, time or anything else. Yeah, we support the team. We're fans. Everybody fans differently. There's some, unbelievable fans that can never make a game. They can't afford it. They can't afford to travel. They can't afford to fly. They can't afford the ticket, but they still love their Dolphins. There's other people that, for whatever reason, they can afford to go to more games, or, somebody like me, my kids grew up. I get to spend the money on me now. I'm not spending it on them. So I can afford to do this. This was 10 years ago. You wouldn't see me down there.
Yeah.
It's just, so my wife knows I'm a crazy fan. She knows I'm going. She don't care. I guess she likes her weekends quiet because I'm not sitting here in the house screaming at the TV.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, look, you look like you bust your ass your whole life to support your family. It's time for some you time. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I raised 4 kids. They're between almost 35 and 26 now, and I got 5 grandkids. And when they were young, I spent a lot of time coaching sports, running them from here to there, running different organizations that they were involved in and stuff. And now they're older. I don't have to do all that stuff. I got a lot more time for me to do what I want to do. And, I do. I bust my ass at work, and this is my busiest time of the year right now is summer because the kids are all out of school. So I'm working 11, 12 hours a day, 4 or 5 days a week just to put the money away to be able to afford to go to all the games.
And well earned, man. Well earned, man. And all right, so now I'm doing a little on the spot for you now. Some on the spot questions here. If the Dolphins move to Austin, Texas, and they become the Austin Dolphins, and it's just like how LA went to, just like, I know it's not going to happen, but just for hypothetical purposes, just like the LA Rams went to St. Louis Rams and went back to the LA Rams, and they stayed the Rams. If the Dolphins moved to another city, would you still be considered? Would you still be a fan of the Dolphins?
Yeah, I'm a Dolphins fan until the day I die. If they move
to Austin, would you still do the same thing? Still go?
If I could afford it and the flights were just the way they are now, yes, absolutely. There's no doubt. It's just, that's my team. I like other sports, but not like I like football. I have other teams and other sports that I like, but not like I like the Dolphins. I don't have any other sports teams tattooed on my body. I'm aqua and orange until they close that lid. So
Yeah, the old joke. When I die, I'm gonna get 6 dolphin pallbearers so they can let me down one last time.
yep.
But yeah, man. Look, we didn't go anywhere after 1-16. So at the end of the day, I think that's kind of like the litmus test of Dolphin fans. We stuck around through that 1-15 season.
You remember that 1-16 year or 1-15 year? Yeah, when we won that one game. Yeah, that was like our Super Bowl.
Yeah.
We won that game, and I was going nuts. I'm like, yes, we're not going to lose them all.
Yeah, we're not going to be the only team that go undefeated and then winless.
Yep.
So, what are your game day foods, if you have any?
If I'm at home, I usually have a couple buddies over, and we'll just do a bunch of little appetizers, wings, mozzarella sticks, poppers. Then I usually make some kind of dinner, or my wife will, some kind of chicken or something, or some ribs, and then we'll just sit here and watch football all day, and the wife stays in the room and watches the TV there. And when I'm at tailgate, it's whatever East 12 is serving, whatever Holly and Maria and Chrissy come up with, that's what I'm eating. I'm a pretty easygoing guy when it comes to food. That's why I'm fat. I like everything.
Me too.
I'm not picky. I can eat anything. For those of you who are listening, if you've never been to the Hard Rock and you get a chance, come to Orange Road 209, East 12 to East 32, and just walk up and down the aisle.
Yeah. By the way, whatchamacallit, I was when Stephen D talked about Cam 954. I thought he was just talking him up because that's his buddy and he was frequent. Dude, he is a freaking amazing cook.
Cameron Scott and his crew spend all day Sunday cooking and feeding fans. That literally is their tailgate. They don't get time to walk around. They're not, if they do, it's a quick minute run down, see somebody and run back. They spend their entire Sunday taking care of the fans that are there. I make sure I go down to East 32, which is, a 2-minute walk down the aisle from us. But I make sure I go down there and say hi to Cam and his wife and the rest of his crew every home game just because of what they do.
Hey, and speaking of game day foods, this is a perfect segue for this.
What's up, y'all? This is Chef Jew. Looking for a great chef for your next catering party, private party, office party, etc. with welcome watering meals and desserts? Let Chef Jew Catering and Sweet Treats take care of it for you at an affordable price. Call me at 786-804-8096. Also reach me at chefjewcatering@gmail.com. Direct message on Facebook and Instagram at Chef Juice Catering. Chef Juice Catering and Sweet Treats, food with a passion. We do it all.
And happy anniversary to him and his wife.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Chef Jew is an amazing ambassador to this community.
Oh, absolutely. They had a wedding ceremony at the tailgate.
Oh, yeah.
Just, great people, nice people. That was 2 years in a row. We had a wedding at East 12 tailgate. So that's another experience too. I never thought I'd see weddings at football games, but seen 2 of them in the last couple of years.
Yeah, and by the way, they were all orchestrated by one Allie Dolfreaky. Who she was in my she was in the blender last year. I don't think she's gonna make it this year because of she's so busy. But I tell you what, she is well deserved of the title Fan of the Year.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, all the people that have gotten Fan of the Year: Big E, Mark, Allie, Chris Barker. If you're a Dolphins fan and you don't know these people, look them up. Mark does wonderful things down on the West Coast. I was lucky enough a couple years ago, my wife and I flew out and Mark picked us up from the airport and we stayed with him and his wife and then drove down to Southern California for the picnic. Big E is just amazing, always smiling, always happy. I got to sit with him at the LA game last year. Just another phenomenal fan, knows a ton about the Dolphins. It was great being able to actually sit with him and watch a game. Baltimore, I got to sit with Stephen D and some other people, and just, that's what I like. Is I said to you before the show started, the games are great. The people are better.
Yeah, no doubt.
The people are just that much better when you get to hang out with these people and talk to them and talk football and watch a game and see them before the game and after the game. It's just the fan experience that we make it is just unbelievable.
And believe it or not, the show, when I started the show last year in the blender, this is my first solo gig, was kind of like the catalyst for me to start going to games, start meeting people. And I met a lot of wonderful people, like the Finn, because of it. I met Pedro, the Fantastic Painter, the first time on the show. Dolphin Winters, the first time on this show. There's some guests that I've met because of this wonderful program, man. And at the end of the day, the experiences and the people I've met and doing this type of shows is what I'm gonna always it's gonna help me even more with the fan experience. I believe, because when I go to the games, it motivates me more to go to games, take pictures, and make more memories.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, I had never met you. I had talked to you on some different shows, and then when you said you were coming to game, like, dude, you got to stop by. And you did, and we were able to say hello and shake hands and have a drink and take a picture, and all because of platforms like this.
Yeah. Yeah, and Papa Paul, man. I mean, I met him the first time. I'm like, damn, that guy is huge, man.
Yeah, 6'5". Pedro's 6'5" too.
Yeah, I'm hoping to meet him soon too, as well, man. He said he wanted to go to the playoff game, but unfortunately, that Kansas City game was. Did you go to that game?
No, I actually looked at tickets because my daughter and her husband and my grandsons live in Missouri. They're about 3 hours from Kansas City, so I usually fly into St. Louis and then get the rent-a-car and drive 2 hours north. And my son-in-law was like, "Hey, if you can get here," but I couldn't find any flights everything was 12, 13 hours. You had a 4-hour layover here or a 6-hour layover. I'm like, I just want to fly straight. I can drive there in 16 hours. What do I want to take 12 hours, 13 hours to fly there for? And then, with as cold as it was, I was glad I didn't go. I know some of the crazies did. Bob Sampson was there. Chris Barker and Carol were there. Ashley was there. There was just some crazies that were there, and I'm glad they got to experience it. But I'm kind of glad I didn't.
Yeah, and one of the speaking of fans of the year, one of the people, there's two people that I would love to see win it. I mean, whoever gets it, I'm sure it's well deserved, but the two people that I would like to see is either Paris Love or Lisa.
Oh no, listen, there's a lot of people that are deserving a fan of the year. Paris.
Those are just two I could think of off the top of my head.
Paris does great things with raffling off his tickets and giving his tickets to fans to have the experience. To be able to go to a game, and maybe they couldn't before that, but he raffles off his ticket, or not raffles, but gives away his tickets, which just is phenomenal. It's somebody, listen, Cameron Scott's deserving. What he does for the fan base, what he does on Sundays for the fan base, and how much money they spend to put that together, and there's a lot of people that you could say are deserving of it. It's just whether somebody nominates them or they nominate themselves, and then who votes. I'm sure listen, I know there's people over on the West Side who I know but not real well. There's people over there that deserve it. West 25, there's people over there that run tailgates and do stuff. They're deserving of it. It's just, once they get nominated, then the votes go in, and I don't know exactly what the criteria is to pick the fan of the year, but I think so far they've done a very good job with picking the four that they've picked so far. So
I agree 100%.
You get somebody like Maria Caraballo. I think she's deserving. Holly, she's deserving. She will tell you she don't want it, but I think she's deserving for everything she does for the Dolphins community. And I'm sure there's a lot more people that are like that.
No, like, as I said, if whoever gets it, I'm sure they'll be, you know,
very well deserving of it, because I believe so far with the 4 people that have gotten it, and I don't know everybody that was nominated. I don't know everybody that runs during the years, but the 4 people that have gotten it, well deserved.
no doubt. And let me ask you this. All right, here's another unspoken question. If you could get a chance to interview 3 people, either Ross, McDaniel, or Greer, who are you interviewing?
Oh, McDaniel, no
All right.
question.
All right, you have 3 under oath questions to ask him. What would they be? He has to answer truthfully.
Well, with McDaniel, you may get a truthful answer. It's just going to take a while. He likes to dance around things and try to keep the reporters on their toes and give them as little information as possible. If I had to ask McDaniel 3 questions, at this point in time, I would say, are you going to use the tight end more this year than just blocking, but throwing to him to open up the playing field more for the offense? Why did the offense sputter down the last 5 games of the year and not be able to score as much as they were? And how can you fix that so that it doesn't happen again? What would a third one be?
No, so far, those are great questions, by the way.
Well, I mean, listen, if you're going to talk to the head coach, I want information.
Yeah.
I think maybe the third one would have to be since he is sober and has been for quite a few years. How has that impacted his life as compared to where he was when he got fired for drinking? Listen, I've met some wonderful people that had problems in the past and don't now, and they're awesome people. So, I think the third one would definitely have to be about his sobriety.
No doubt. Hey, man. I remember Finn Sasson was on the show, and he had an amazing story about something similar. And you know what? It's like you said, a lot of people made turnarounds and significant, changes to their lives for the better.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
They didn't give up, and they just kept pushing, man.
Yeah. Now he goes to every game around the world. And he busts his ass to get there. He works like crazy during the off season, so he can afford to keep doing it when the season comes. So, it's kudos to him and good for him. I'm glad that he got his life changed around and that he got himself clean and sober, and then he lost a ton of weight, and the guy's doing amazing.
Oh, man. And how much time do I have you for, by the way? Just checking. I don't want to.
I don't know. The wife's not home.
Okay.
She unfortunately she's at her mom's. Her mom's on hospice, so she's at her mom's house. So
no, because I really want to, before we get into the Mount Rushmore of the Miami Dolphins, I want to know how did you become evolved? Because the West Coast Dolphin fan was a small channel, and it's evolving really fast and at a good pace. How did you get involved with Winters and Papa Paul?
Well, I had known Papa Paul for a little bit of time, and we always talk. And I believe I had met Winters already. Tom O'Gara I knew. Ethan I hadn't met, but Papa Paul approached me and said, "Listen, this is the idea I have. I want to do a panel where we can talk about things, give our opinions." No acting like idiots, no screaming and yelling at each other, no telling people they're not good fans or because they fan differently. And I'm like, that's awesome. That to me is the way to do it. I know there's other shows out there, and these guys really get on each other. And to me, I'll tune in, and then I just have to turn it off once they start calling each other names or telling somebody they're not a fan because of something. We all fan differently.
Yeah.
So it's the idea that Papa Paul came up with, and it was the 5 of us that started it together. And all the props to Papa Paul, because it was his idea, and he just wanted guys that were going to give honest opinions and talk about the Dolphins and have a good time doing it. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I'm in. I make most of the shows now with the Roku shows. We got 3 of them a week, plus we have our own show that we do on Wednesday nights.
Which is the flagship show.
Yes, that's the flagship. I try not to miss that one. I think I've only missed one since we've been on the Roku shows. I think I've missed 1 or 2. But, it just depends on what the schedule is. Like I missed last night's show because I was at work late, working a little extra to bank the time. So when I go away, I can still get paid. So I just like the idea of what his concept was, talk, enjoy it. Like you and I are talking now. We can have a difference of opinions. But that doesn't make you right, doesn't make me right, doesn't make you wrong, doesn't make me wrong. It's just, listen, we watch games differently. We see different things. We look at a player differently. I love the fact that you did not want Christian Wilkins back for whatever reason.
Well, I did want him back, but I just didn't want that $30 million price tag.
Right. And you were the first one to say he's going to be gone. He's not going to be here. They can't afford to sign him. And you were correct. And I thought along the same lines. I'm like, if he's going to try to get that much of a bag, they're not going to be able to sign him. But I was hoping that they could because I actually like Christian Wilkins.
Yeah, we do too. I mean, I like Mike Gesicki too, but I think he was asking for too much as well.
Well, it's funny because Gesicki went to New England for $4.5 million with 4.5 more in incentives and didn't reach one of the damn incentives because they didn't use them.
Yeah.
And now, the poor guy, and I love Gesicki. I love his family. His mom and dad are cool. His sister is awesome. His wife is awesome.
Jersey too.
Yeah, I've got a chance to meet his entire family. His wife, she's tiny. She's, I got pictures on my Facebook. She's little. But, his mom and dad are great people. I've spent not a ton of time, but quite a bit of time at his signing. We were flying on the same flights from Atlantic City down there because they live close to Atlantic City. And I would see him on the plane and just, wave hi because I've never wanted to use their last name in case somebody on the plane was a Dolphins fan and I didn't know it. And I'd be like, hey, Gesicki. And then they'd be all over him. So I would just wave to him and say hi, when I saw him. But, it is what it is. It's football. It's a business. You can't be mad at guys for going somewhere to try to make the money. They have a very short career. They got to try to make as much as they can in a short amount of time. And when you actually look at it, they don't make nearly the money you think they do. They literally do not take home 50% of what they signed for. After taxes, agent fees, all this other stuff, they got to pay taxes in every state they go and play in. So that game day check gets taxed by that state, by the federal government, by Social Security, by FICA, and everybody could say, oh, poor them, they're making millions. They are, but they're making literally less than 50% of what they actually signed for. If you look at the numbers and what they pay out and their manager, their agent, their this, their that, they do make great money, but not what people actually think they make.
Like the trainers and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, everything. There's a lot that goes into that. You sign $1 million contract, you literally are making probably take home maybe $300,000 after you pay all your taxes and your bills and stuff. So that's why I don't begrudge these guys making money. We're paying to see them play. I always thought college kids should have got paid. They're using their faces, they're using their names, and now they are. So good for them.
Yeah, and by the way, you've had some great guests like OJ McDuffie. You had Richmond Webb. You've had Shannon from Nick Neem's mom.
Troy Drayton.
Just recently, Crash Ginseng. I'm not mistaken, right? Didn't you have?
No, I'm trying to get Crash on, but I haven't been able to get him on yet.
Okay. Which one was your would you say? I know they're all great, but which one was stuck out to you the most?
That's hard because it's between two of them, Shannon and OJ. OJ, if you're listening, brother, I love that guy. He's just amazing. He's amazing with the fans. You know, he goes out of his way just to make sure that people have a good experience. And as a former player, he doesn't have to do that.
Yeah.
But he always does. He's been to our tailgate many a times. I've had the opportunity to hang out with him before games, after games, on the cruise last year. You know, he's phenomenal. His kids were his boys were absolutely awesome on the cruise. Such wonderful young men, and I believe they're both teenagers that were there. But just nice, polite kids. You would never know their dad was, you know, famous and played in the NFL. You know, they didn't act like that spoiled kid. They were just good kids, and they had a great time on the cruise, and they were very personable. And, you know, OJ's awesome. Shannon is just, if you haven't been able to meet Shannon Needham and you get a chance, she will sit down and talk to you. She's another one. She's in recovery. She's been clean for, I don't remember how long now, but she'll post it on Facebook and tell you, you know, 2 years clean, 5, whatever it is. And a lot of people aren't going to do that. Shannon's had some hard times in life, but she's come through it. When we were out in LA last year, she took a group of us and we were able to go out and give stuff out to the homeless people. And she does this all the time. Myself and Maria and Holly were able to go make cookies with her for a recipe that she makes for the team and for all the games. And she gives them to the guys, and Nick takes them into the locker room so they can all enjoy her cookies. She's just a phenomenal person. She's not famous. Her son is semi-famous. You know, I wish Nick had more to do with the team, and maybe this year he will, because I think he's a phenomenal player, but I'm not a coach, so I can only root for the guys that the coaches put out there. I've got to meet Nick. He's a great kid, and I say kid because, Christ, I think all my kids are older than him.
Yeah. You know what's funny is when I hear, like, there's a guy, I'm not gonna say his name, but he's in his early 30s, and he's referring to two. Oh, I have nothing against the kid. I'm like, you can't call him a kid. He's almost your age. What are we talking about? You know what I'm saying? When
You call people kids when they're your kid's age and younger.
Yeah.
Not when they're only 5 years younger than you, 6 years. No, then they're not a kid.
I think that's just it's funny, you know what I mean? When somebody like in the early 30s, oh, I got nothing against the kid. I'm like, no, he's not a kid. Not to you, he ain't. No. I could say that because I'm almost 50 years old.
Right? Yeah. My youngest child is 26, so she's older than Tua. So you know, I can call him a kid.
All right, here we go. Yeah, here's the appearance from my cat, Lana.
Yeah, mine's walking around. Oh, there she is. She's up on the windowsill.
Oh, that's nice.
She hangs on out by the window. She's deaf, so she can't hear us.
Yeah, she's the reason why I always keep plastic liquor bottles, because she likes to throw stuff. All right, sweetie. You could thank you. You said you made your appearance now, please. Thank you. Oh man. All right. I have this segment where I call the duos, right? You have 5 duos, okay? And it's the Mark brothers, Ricky and Ronnie, Dwight Stevenson, and Richmond Webb. You have Zach Thomas, Patrick Surtain, and then you have Zach Thomas and Jason Taylor, and then Patrick Surtain and Sam Madison. Out of those 5 duos, you could put on next year's roster, who would they be?
Start with Zach Thomas. Zach is one of my all-time favorite players. Jason's up there too, but I give Zach the edge. I would say Sam Madison. I liked him just a little bit more when he played with Surtain. Not by much. Again, that's a close one. Give me the other ones again.
The Marks brothers, Ricky and Ronnie, and Dwight Stevenson, and Richmond Webb.
Well, Richmond Webb, because I've met Richmond on a couple different occasions, and he's a house of a man. How he's not in the Hall of Fame is beyond me. Yeah.
And bolster up this offensive line really good. We have Dwight Stevenson.
Yeah, because he's taken up the left side by himself. Him and Sims were unbelievable together, but Richmond is he's such a pleasant guy. How he was that dominant at football when you get to meet him off the field, it's just amazing. But no, easily Richmond, and nothing against Dwight Stevenson, but I would take Richmond.
Well, those are the two duels you get to have on the team. So those are so Richmond and Dwight Stevenson. So you have a center and a left tackle.
Yeah,
I think that's a pretty good combination. He did a pretty good job with Dan Marino, Dwight Stevenson.
absolutely. No, I mean, listen, it's Ricky only because Ricky ran a little harder, a little thicker. I like Ronnie Brown, but he was more of a, Ronnie kind of, if you look back at it now, Ronnie was more of a LaDainian Tomlinson before LaDainian Tomlinson was, really, he could run, he could do this, he could do that, he could catch. Ricky was more, he could catch, but it was more pound the ball, get the hole, and just go. So I would take the pounder over the little lighter weight of Ronnie Brown. And what was the last one?
Ricky, Ronnie, the Marx Brothers.
Clayton. Yeah. I think Clayton was just a little bit better than Duper was over the years. Again, not to take anything away from Duper, but I like Clayton just a little bit better.
No doubt. I mean, which one was the one who played with the puncher's bar?
Oh, now you're gonna make me think.
I think it was Duper. He had that.
Yeah.
That face where it was just
the one bar going across the front. Yeah.
Yeah, and they played with no gloves either.
Yeah. No, but they use stickum, so
that's what it was.
Trust me, back in the 80s, man, they were spraying their hands on the sideline, so they would go out there and just throw their hand down, that thing would stick to it.
Okay.
Yeah. They used stickum back then. They'll tell you they didn't, but we all know that everybody did. That's like steroids in the 80s. I'm not using steroids. Everybody was doing it.
Speaking of which, man, I've seen there's a thing on social media. This Mets pitcher got ejected for putting some substance on his fingers.
Yeah, I mean, that happens. It's whether they get caught or not. Guys do it all the time. They got under their hat, on their glove, in their pocket, their back pocket, whatever they can. If they can find a way of doing it, they're going to do it till they get caught.
Yeah. The umpires checked there was a bunch of people, and then he just got ejected right before he got to throw a pitch too.
Oh, somebody must have saw something or thought something, and they got him. So, yep.
So, before we get to the Mount Rushmore, if you can. If you can't, you can't. Well, can you give me your top 5 memorable games that you've been to? It could all time. It does not just. Or give me 1 or 2 at least.
Philly when Shula broke the record. The Baltimore.
Did you see Shula getting picked up? And have you ever met Shula?
Yes, I went to the Hall of Fame in '97 when he was inducted, and I was walking around and somebody said, "Hey, Shula's going to be over here," and I went over to this little side spot, and there was maybe like 12 of us standing there, and sure enough, he walked out and he said hello to everybody, shook everybody's hand, said, "I'm not signing anything, guys, but I'll spend some time." He spent about 10 minutes talking to us, answering questions. And then he said, "All right, I got to get back in for my dinner." And he went back inside this little door. But it was amazing just to stand there with him right after he got inducted into the Hall of Fame. That was just something I'll never forget.
Okay.
The Chargers game in 2019, my first game at the Rock. I got to put that one in there. The Baltimore game, was it last year or 2 years ago on Thursday when the Rock was just absolutely electric? It was the loudest I've ever heard it. Yeah,
when Tua came back from injury.
No. That game was in Baltimore. The next year we played Baltimore.
No, I'm talking about when Tua. It was Jacoby Brissett started, and then he came in.
Yes, and the Rock was just absolutely electric. It was the loudest I've ever heard the stadium. So that one I got to put in there. just for records, the Denver game this year, scoring 70 points. That was just, we weren't even trying to score. They were just handing the ball off, and guys are running through the line, and the chain goes for 68 yards or whatever it was, and nobody even barely touches the guy, and they're not even trying to score. They're just trying to run the clock out.
Yeah, Color was telling me that his obliques were hurting because from all the standing up, sitting down, standing up, sitting down.
Yeah, every time you turned around, we scored 35 in the first half and 35 in the second half. It was crazy.
10 touchdowns.
Yes. So that game there, just because of 70, the LA game was cool just because of the atmosphere.
But definitely, I would say the best one I've heard you say was definitely has to be the Shula record, because man, that was you were there.
Yeah, that was just something that you can't replace that.
And ironic, you know who Mike Oliva is?
Yes.
From Dolphins Talk.
Yep.
I had him in the blender, and he was saying his very first Dolphin game was the Cleveland game where Dan Marino got injured for the season.
Oh, jeez.
Talk about a game to be, you know what I'm saying? Like, damn, that had to be my first game.
Yeah, that's gotta suck. Yeah. You finally get to go see him, and he blows his Achilles on a non-contact. He just went to step forward, and his Achilles went out.
Yeah, it's kind of like how Jalen Phillips too. Jalen Phillips was non-contact.
Yes, but if you go back and watch the tape of that, and I said this on our show on Wednesdays right after it happened, because I went back and I looked. The play before that, you could see that he had hurt himself. But being the warrior that he is, he did not want to come out. And you could see he had a slight limp. And then he lined up for that play. And when he pushed, it just snapped. So he had hurt it on the play before that. I just don't think he knew that he had hurt it to the point that it was going to snap. And he went to push off, and that was it. It snapped, and he went down.
Yeah, and it was even made it worse was the Hard Knocks when he said it felt like I got shot, like it went it popped.
Oh, yeah. When your Achilles blows, your foot goes limp, it just flops around. There's nothing to hold it there, and that ligament runs down the back, and it just breaks. And yeah, I can imagine it feels like being shot.
And I mean, the thing about what he went through, you remember he had a concussion. That's why he had to retire from football.
Yep, when he was in college, yeah.
And he was actually going to take from what I understand, he was going to take music and whatnot. Yeah,
I've met him a couple times. Really nice guy. Just phenomenal.
I know he takes a lot of. He's one of those guys. A lot of fans have been taking pictures of him because he's kind of like the guy that. And especially if you're look, I'm a Gators fan. But if you're Miami, a lot of Dolphin fans or Canes fans, that's gonna hey, it's all about you, man. It's all about you right now. So you know what I'm saying? No pun intended. But yeah, if you're a U fan, man, you're gonna even love it even more. Because hey, listen, I enjoyed when Mike Pouncey was here. Right.
Yeah. And I love Mike Pouncey. Him and his brother were both phenomenal players. You see how skinny they've gotten?
Yeah. They don't look like football players anymore.
No, not at all.
Nat Moore is another one that even though I didn't see him play, but it was good that he came from the University of Florida. What's the other one? Channing Crowder is another one that I like because of Florida. So anybody who roots a little extra harder because of I don't begrudge them. You know what I'm saying? I think that's another reason why there's kind of a sentimental, and not to mention he reminds me a lot of Jason Taylor.
Yes, yeah, his build, his physique, his speed. Yes, give him a couple more years where he's packing on the muscle, and I can definitely see it.
And I'm telling you, next time if you look on YouTube, go do a Jalen Phillips interview. Right, close your eyes. And you swear it's Jason Taylor talking, how he speaks.
Hey, Jason Taylor was a great one. I love that. He was a great player for a long time. I loved him.
And he also coached him at the U too.
Yes.
Last year. So I mean, I was hoping that he would come to Miami, the Dolphins. But hey, man, listen. At the end of the day, I'm glad Jason Taylor is doing what he loves, and he's still involved with South Florida.
Yep, absolutely.
So, all right, before we go, and once again, I appreciate all the stories you gave me and all the gems, you know what I'm saying, you've dropped. Where can we find you, and where can we find you as far as
WCFL Dolphins Talk? We do our show every Wednesday night at 8:45. It's on Facebook, it's on YouTube. And then we do 3 shows a week. Saturday night 6 to 7, Sunday morning 9 to 10, and Monday night 5 to 6 on Roku, Fire Stick. It's also on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. If you're not friends with myself or Papa Paul or Dolphin Winners, Tom O'Gara, Ethan Stepp, friend request one of us, and then you'll be able to see everything that pops up. If you're at home games, Orange East 12, Row 209, come visit. Trust me, you'll be excited. You do. A lot of the crazy fans you see on TV all hang out at East 12. So,
and that it is. The only thing about I would recommend stay hydrated because you're going to be.
Oh yes, no, yes. Listen, September games, I might have 2 beers and 8 waters during tailgate because it's too damn hot.
I don't blame you, man. So. All right, here's the main event. What is your Miami Dolphins Mount Rushmore? And by the way, so you could so you understand, it doesn't have to be players. It could be coach, owner.
That's easy. That's easy. Right. Shula, Marino, Thomas, and Taylor.
Straight to the point.
Easy.
Shula, Marino, Thomas, and Taylor.
When you said that earlier, I'm like, those are the 4 instantly.
That's what's up, man.
Yeah. Shula, just because of what he did for the Dolphins in the 70s and being a coach there for 27 years or whatever it was, and taking them to 5 Super Bowls, winning 2 of them, always keeping the teams in the playoff hunt, in the playoffs. Marino, just because of who he was and how electric he was and the records he sent and how he changed the game, that all these kids nowadays have no idea that it was him that changed the game and did this. And TNT, because I loved watching those 2 play together.
Yeah. And it was amazing when we had Junior Seau jump in the fray too at one point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So go ahead.
We've had a lot of great players over the years, and it's but for me that was easy. Those 4.
Yeah. So Marino,
Shula, Zach Thomas, and Jason Taylor.
Yeah, I have a short-term memory. I have a long-term memory. I could remember something I did when I was in the 5th grade, but not 10 minutes ago. Any final thoughts before we wrap this up? And then once again, by the way, your West Coast Papa Paul and Winters will be this Thursday.
Tomorrow night. They're Thursday coming night. In. Okay, good. So now appreciate you having me. Love talking to you when you come on our show. It's great to see your show. Keep doing what you're doing. Anything that promotes the Dolphins and the fan base is good by me. I love it.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Thank you, man. If you want to stick around backstage for just a minute or 2, just to pick your brain.
Okay.
All right. With that being said, everybody, fins up. I appreciate everybody. Chef Jew, Raphael Courtright, even you, Michael K. Color, Costa Nostra, man. Listen, man, I appreciate everybody who comes in and supports the channel, because if it wasn't for the people watching, we'd just be talking to ourselves. So fins up, and man, let's hope for a Super Bowl, baby. Let's hope for a Super Bowl. Fins up.
Fins up, awesome.
I know you heard me on the radio flexing. She loved the sound of my voice, it's the best thing. Daydreaming of the jazz all day. Pick up the phone late night with Larry K. I know you heard me on the radio flexing. She loved the sound of my voice, it's the best thing. Daydreaming of the jazz all day. Pick up the phone late night with Larry K.